Hiya, welcome to Darren in the Studio. Thank you for swinging by for another video here in the studio. This video is a follow-up from a video I did a couple of videos ago where we looked at recordings made by the BBC that had become available either as transcription discs formerly owned by radio stations, or recordings that have been bought by record companies and issued. Now, I did say on the BBC version that I just had far too many of these recordings to just do one video. So that's why we concentrated on the BBC last time. This one is the follow-up to the BBC one. These are recordings made for broadcast which have been made available commercially since, if you will. And there's a couple of ones in here which are promos. So they're not commercially available, but they are sort of available on YouTube, on eBay and sites like that. So first off, as before, they're all in alphabetical order as artist and band, and we're starting off with someone we didn't feature last time because I don't think he's ever had anything issued via the BBC, but he certainly had other stuff issued through other broadcasting outlets, and that's Alice Cooper. Now this is a promo disc. This is a very special disc for me, and it's probably one of the an album that I bought in recent years which kind of means the most, if you will. It has a real good provenance, this one. 1979, this is a radio promo on the Warner Brothers label. This comes from the private collection of Brian Nelson. Now, Brian Nelson was Alice Cooper's personal assistant for a long time, and a real Alice Cooper nut. He would collect a lot of things to do with Alice Cooper. And just a little bit of a background, Brian, actually a huge fan of Alice Cooper, wrote to Alice and bugged him for ages about being his personal assistant, and eventually he became Alice Cooper's personal assistant for many years. Sadly, Brian took his life a few years ago, and his collection of Alice Cooper memorabilia has been slowly sort of sold off by his relatives, and this comes from that very collection. This is a promo disc from 1979, intended for radio broadcast to promote Alice Cooper's latest album at that time, which would have been the 1978 album From the Inside. Now, this was made for American radio stations. It's a double disc collection on the Warner's label, and it actually has, even on the spine, I don't know if you can see that on the spine or not, but it tells you, it says on the spine, Pro A789, the Alice Cooper Radio Special, printed in the USA. There you go, nice little 1979 promo disc from the personal collection of Brian Renfield Nelson, the assistant to the master, assistant to Alice Cooper, as was. Rest in peace, Brian, we say. Next up, another Alice Cooper collection. Now, this came out in 2017, made up of broadcasts from 1971 to 1995. I think all these broadcasts happened in the USA. This is how many discs in here? 8 discs in this collection. It also comes with a nice booklet giving you information about the gigs and pictures. But the really great thing about this particular collection, not only is it excellently presented in 8 discs. It also, like I said, from 1971 up to 1995, covers a massive period in Alice Cooper's career, including his sort of blackout period. Some of that early 80s recordings are included in these as well. Disc 1 is from Detroit, 1971. Disc 2 is Los Angeles, 1975. Disc 3, Saginaw, 1978. Disc 4 is San Diego, 1979. Disc 5 is El Paso, Texas, 1980. As is disc 6, 5 and 6 are the same show. Disc 7 is Cincinnati Gardens, Ohio, 1987. And disc 8 is Santiago, Chile, 1995. But I wanted to highlight these 2 discs, disc 5 and disc 6. Now this particular concert that this features from 1980 would have been from the Flush the Fashion tour, and this recording has been made available on its own, but these 2 discs include the entire broadcast, and a lot of this broadcast was actually made up of the Alice Cooper Show album. They used that album from 1977 as a bit of a filler, so it's a bit naughty really, because some of the live stuff on these 2 is from 1977. But if you get a chance to pick this particular set of discs up, then I highly recommend, if you're into your radio broadcast recordings, then this from the Alice Cooper vaults is the one to get. It's called Broadcast Collection 1971 to 1995. It's out on the Soundstage label, 2017, digitally remastered, and it's not a crazy amount of money. I think I paid about £15 for this, but it's got some really great recordings on it. It really has. Okay, next up, also Alice Cooper. And you know I'm a massive Alice Cooper fan, and this was the live recording that all Alice Cooper fans were really waiting for. Now, in 1982, Alice Cooper was on tour in the UK with his Special Forces album, and he recorded the show, or they recorded the show. Radio Clyde in Glasgow recorded the show at the Glasgow Apollo at February 1982. And that recording was made of, some of those songs were made available on the For Britain Only EP, which I've shown on previous videos. But the rest of the concert was never released. It was shelved. But it came out, because obviously people at home recorded it off the radio, it came out in various forms of bootleg, of various sort of quality. But Alice Cooper fans for years and years always wanted it to come out officially. And Warner Brothers, Rhino Warners, put it out in 2020 as part of Record Store Day, and this is it. Beautiful cover. Apollo Theatre, Glasgow, the 19th of February 1982. Like I say, part of Record Store Day 2020, for the first time on vinyl. Limited edition of 7,000 copies. This goes for a pretty penny now. I've actually got 2 of these. I did have 3. I gave one of them to my brother. The only thing about this particular release, it's a double album, but it's only got one, it's just a single sleeve with 2 standard inserts on it. They really missed out on the artwork. They could have really made this artwork beautiful, because Alice Cooper was very distinctive at this time. He had a really punky kind of look, and some of the bootleg covers are much better than this, although the quality of this is absolutely superb. The dog's telling me that it's superb as well. Alice Cooper, Glasgow Apollo 1982, part of Record Store Day, originally recorded by Radio Clyde in Glasgow. Next up, moving away from Alice Cooper, we're going to Steve Earle. And this is part of the Live in Austin, Texas, Austin City Limits releases. And they've released a lot of country music legends on CD and vinyl. But this was the first time this was released on vinyl. This vinyl came out in 2017, originally recorded in 1986. Steve Earle, Austin City Limits. This would have been sort of like the Exit Zero sort of period of his career. Steve, of course, one of those artists that trailblazed country music into the rock sort of sphere as well. A lot of rock fans got into country music through people like Steve Earle and Dwight Yoakam. We'll look at Dwight a little bit later on. First recorded for the Austin City Limits Live from Austin, Texas series. This is on the New West label, originally from 1988, but made available on vinyl. Next up, Kiss. Now you can get a lot of Kiss recordings officially now that were originally meant for radio broadcast. This CD collection came out in 2016. There are other, obviously, radio broadcast collections available that have been put out from Kiss. This is an unofficial release, and it's actually been banned on Discogs, but it's not a bootleg as such. It's still officially released, but unofficial, if you know what I mean. And Kiss are very funny about unofficial stuff coming out. This is called Crazy Nights. It's a terrible cover, because the pictures used here on this particular collection have nothing to do with the time period that these recordings were made. But for a 4 CD collection, it's really, really good. It comes from 1980. CD1 is 1980, recorded in Auckland, New Zealand. CD2 is from 1988 from Sweden. And CD3 and 4 are from Argentina. So you're looking at 1980, 1988 and 1992. If you're a Kiss fan, this is a good thing to pick up if you can get it. Crazy Nights, Kiss, 4 CD box set, 2017. Originally intended for radio broadcast. But like a lot of these tapes, they're now being made available to record companies that put them out. Next up, another promo disc. We started off with a promo disc from Alice Cooper, and this is a similar sort of thing. This came out or was made available in 1985. These are the Long Riders, and this is a promo disc from 1985 through the Island label. Now, this was made by Piccadilly Radio's Tony Michaelides. I used to listen to Tony Michaelides all the time when I was growing up in Manchester, and he used to be called Tony the Greek on Piccadilly Radio. And this is the promo disc of the recordings he made when he interviewed the Long Riders. And basically, it's the State of Our Union album from 1985 with the band talking in between the tracks. I'll show you the record. The sleeve has nothing on it apart from that sticker, and there's nothing else. There's the label. Nice little white label promos. But if you're a Long Riders fan, as I am, this is quite a nice little thing to have. Nice little promo disc from radio broadcasts made by Piccadilly Radio in 1985. Next up, Elvis. Now, here's an interesting album. These recordings were first used for Elvis's In Concert program, which was released sadly after Elvis died. Now, of course, Market Square Arena, Indianapolis, was the very last concert, was the place where Elvis performed his very last concert in June of 1977. And then later on in 1977, RCA put out this, Elvis in Concert. This features those very last recordings and also some extra recordings made on tour in 1977. But these recordings were first made for television broadcast, Elvis in Concert. Nice little double album. This is an original UK pressing on the RCA Orange label. 1977, originally made for the CBS broadcast Elvis in Concert. Next up, we're staying with Elvis. Here's a very interesting album, and I looked it up online, and it's not worth anything. I thought it might be worth a little bit. This came out in 1982, and it's on the Magnum label, Magnum Force, rocking around the world. This is called On Air Tributes of Music, The King is Dead, The Night Elvis Died. Now, this is recorded in August of 1977 from Radio Luxembourg. Somebody was recording Radio Luxembourg onto a tape at home, and Magnum Records back in all those years later in 1982 put this out. Now, this features, it's basically a radio program on Luxembourg radio the night that Elvis Presley died, and of course they were playing Elvis records and talking about Elvis and reminiscing and stuff like that, talking about the fact that he died and all those kind of things. Obviously Elvis music is not included in this. It's sort of subsequent music that's made to sound like 50s sort of style Elvis, but all the speech and stuff like that is from those original recordings from 1977 on Radio Luxembourg. It includes some very interesting people. You've got Tony Prince, who's a very famous radio broadcaster here in the UK. Peter Powell's on here as well. Mark Wesley. Several fans are on here as well. Todd Slaughter is featured on here as well, who was the head of the UK Elvis fan club. And also there's a guy on here called Jimmy Savile, but we'll skip over that. The King is Dead, The Night That Elvis Died. Officially made available in 1982 on the Magnum label. Recordings from Radio Luxembourg. Next up, we're going to 1986 and an album that was released in 1992. Now then, back in 1986, Queen were the very first band to have a live concert broadcast on independent radio and independent television simultaneously. So you could hear it on the radio and watch it on the television, on ITV TV and on local radio, whichever your local radio station was at the time. And back in 86, that would have been an absolute technical nightmare, but they pulled it off. And a year after Freddie Mercury passed away, it came out officially. Queen, live at Wembley, 1986. Like I said, originally intended for broadcast on independent television and independent radio all across the United Kingdom. And 10 years after Freddie passed away, it was issued on cassette, CD, and also on vinyl as well. If you can get this on vinyl, well, you know, I think you'd be able to live comfortably if you sold it on, because it's worth a little bit of money. Really great collection. And I think not long after this, Freddie performed his very last live concert at Nebworth, which they also put out as a live album around the time that it was done. But from 1986, Queen live at Wembley, a simultaneous cast on ITV TV and independent radio in the UK, made available in 1992. Queen live at Wembley 86. An iconic album, you'll agree. Last but not least, one of my favourite singer-songwriters, and we're going back to those Austin City Limits recordings again. This is from 1988, recorded October 1988. This is Dwight Yoakam, and his Austin City Limits release. Now this, looking at the track listing, you're looking at, this is going to be about 1988. Like I said, recorded in 1988, around the time of the Buenas Noches from a Lonely Room recordings. Recorded for KLRU Television and made available in 2017 on vinyl, but previously released on CD. But I'm not sure when it came out on CD, possibly around the same time as the Steve Earle one, which I think were 2017, something like that. Austin City Limits, Dwight Yoakam. This is a 2-disc set, but disc 2, it's only got 3 sides. It's only cut on 3 sides. When I first bought it, I didn't realize it was just 3 sides, and I panicked a little bit when I got to this side, and it just looks like that. But how great does that look? Just a blank piece of vinyl. Like it. Dwight Yoakam, Austin City Limits, which I understand is a very famous American program. Features a different artist every week, probably on the same level as the Grand Ole Opry and things like that, I'm sure. Dwight Yoakam, originally recorded in 1988 for the Austin City Limits Live from Austin, Texas series. That's it. Thanks for swinging by for this particular video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications and all that kind of stuff. You know the drill by now. Look after yourselves, look after each other, and hopefully we'll see you again for another video right here in the studio. Until that time, we'll see you soon. Ta-da.